Hi, it's Jody, and I'm here to share a free preview of this week's after school episode where we're talking about 1 month with the Life of a Showgirl album. We catch up on how we're each feeling about the songs after a full month, what's changed, what's still stuck in our head, and what's up with the truly wild criticism this album is getting. We talk about the release party of a showgirl and why Taylor's albums pull in completely different fans. And honestly, we also might have invented the Taylor Swift personality test that is better than the Myers-Briggs test. Take a listen, and if you like this sneak peek and want to listen to the full episode, you can subscribe to After School on Substack at aptaylorswift.substack.com/subscribe. Subscribers get new episodes every month plus fun additional bonuses like additional content, early access to future episode topic, and even the ability to inform some of our upcoming episode content like themes we talk about or songs we deep dive. You can find the full link to subscribe in our show notes, and we hope you enjoy this free preview.
You are listening to AP Taylor Swift, the podcast for Swifties who are all about the lyrics. We're your hosts. I'm Jen.
I'm Muncie.
And I'm Jody.
And we are your unofficial professors of Taylor Swift. Welcome to a very fun after school. I keep saying after school special, after school episode.
I know, that's what it feels like.
This after school special is 1 month of the life of a showgirl. So we're going to go through a couple of different topics, our reactions, things that we think differently now than we did when the album came out, some of the criticism. There's just been a lot that's happened in the last few weeks, so we wanted to pause, revisit, and dig back into a few things. And I was very busy the weekend that the album came out. Obviously, we were doing our stuff, and then I had my own life stuff going on. So I didn't get to go see
that's not Taylor Swift?
my wedding anniversary. So rude of me 12
rude.
years ago to get married on that weekend. I
Rude.
should have known. I know. It's on me. So I wanted to kick things off with you two talking about your experiences getting to go see the film, the music video, the behind the scenes, all that stuff, because I am curious.
It's a great reminder. As soon as you said that, I was like, right. I actually took notes in the movie theater, which is just so me.
Nerd.
I know. Yeah. I'm such a nerd. It was just really nice way to get to know people around a shared love of Taylor Swift. It felt kind of like the Eras tour all over again. So I think just that camaraderie and that sense of togetherness and fun. So just like a really fun way to experience all of this.
Yeah, I agree. I also went pretty early. I went on the first day. I think this was definitely one of those things that I think the people who went on Sunday probably had the most fun, because I think as people got more and more acquainted with the album, people got a little looser. I saw the videos of the people dancing in the theaters and the whole camaraderie. Definitely did not have that in my theater, but we did. I mean, we were singing along already within a few hours of coming out. I was on the Pacific Coast, so it was a little bit later, but it was day one. Huge applauses in between every song. What I did love, though, was the behind the scenes talk track for Fate of Ophelia, because wow, the amount of work that went into that video. And I just, as a nerd, I love that kind of stuff. It's really showcasing exactly how that video is made. And we saw the video first. Video was freaking fantastic. Probably my all-time favorite video that I've ever seen her make.
Really?
I think so. I mean, we can talk about that clearly. It's a discussion point. But I absolutely love the video. But then after walking through all of the different things and then seeing I was like, I hope they show it again at the end. Yeah. And they did. I just feel like you see it completely differently in new lights.
This is such a small thing since I didn't go, obviously, to the film. But it was fun. It was such a well-crafted music video. I loved watching it, even if I didn't, see it in films. But she just, and I think this is a thought I have about the album as a whole, that she has a foot in both worlds, where she's doing these really high culture references and low culture references. Put air quotes around
She called
those.
it art history for pop fans, which I thought was a good description and might articulate what you're trying to say.
Yeah, but the thing that I thought was really interesting is she put in a dance that's a good TikTok dance, while she also put in these references to major pieces of historical art history that have been, high culture for a long time. And then she also put in a great TikTok dance. And she does that a lot in this album, where she's using slang that is side by side with something a little bit more poetic or historical or literary. And it wasn't something I thought about when I saw the video at first, but then I saw everyone doing the dance. I was like, oh yeah, she put in a TikTok dance. Like, she definitely knew what she was doing, that was gonna become a thing. But then she's doing all this other stuff. She did a lot, but she consistently is pairing these two opposed,
Yeah.
like, the culture. If you think of the culture war, she's
Right.
kind of sitting in the middle and is like, I like both.
And I feel like that's something that we talked about in our day of commentary on the album in terms of her lyrics, that she's how many people can quote Shakespeare and say that was or keep it 100 and vibes in the same song and have it work. And that's a lot of the criticism that she got on this album as
Yeah.
well, was the colloquial language. But I don't know, I'd love to hear what you guys think, but I don't think there is one lyric on this entire album that I am critical of,
What
and
is
it
it?
is "Ruin the Friendship," which is a fabulous song, but there's a line, "Have fun, it's prom." And the reason I hate that line is particularly in that song, she is painting such a beautiful picture. She is so descriptive and describing scenes that tell you the story without having to tell you. She is showing you everything, the show don't tell. And that is the one line where she literally tells you it's prom. And I don't think she needed to do that. I think she could have continued to paint the picture. The other lines that people are criticizing her for in Eldest Daughter, in The Fate of Ophelia, using colloquial language, I think that's purposeful, to your point, Jen. Like, she is purposefully she's very, and I even wrote in my note that I took in the theater, sorry to everybody who was in the theater with me, I wrote down somewhere between Opalite and, in Opalite. She is so intentional with every lyric and every word. Every lyric and every word has a purpose. And that's the one line where I'm like, you could have done better.
I also heard a lot of people say that they expected the album to be more like the last song, A Life of a Showgirl. Like, they were expecting more of this, like, reflection on show business.
Stop having expectations of Taylor Swift albums without hearing them,
Yeah,
guys.
and the whole point of it was that it was the life of a showgirl, which is complex and nuanced and multifaceted.
And I think that's the thing. It's like, if we want to talk about show, not tell, the last song tells you about some of the life of a
Right.
showgirl, but the rest of the songs are
Just
doing the
showing you.
work in
Yeah.
showing it to you, even in the language. Like, we mentioned this on our first day reaction, was like, there is a dichotomy in the language. There's simple language. There's like your fancy language of like show on stage versus like the reality of the language at the end of the show, like the simple day to day.
Yeah. And I
And
think a lot of
yeah.
what people are expecting, I'm hoping we'll get in the documentary, which, like, we kind of all knew was coming. Like, how can you not? How
Yeah,
can
we
you
saw
not?
all the cameras and stuff too. I mean, do I
The
think it was
one
her?
thing we got right.
It's true. Do I think this is her best lyrical album? No, I don't. But she has a lot of
Yes,
albums.
Monty, do tell.
No, I want
It's
Jen to
not.
finish.
Well, like, I think it's a good lyrical album, but if you put out all of her albums in front of me and said, which one do you think is the most lyrically interesting, this wouldn't be the one I would
Which one do you
necessarily
think
choose.
that is, by the way? Because I did hear that a lot, and I'm just curious, like, what would you say is her best lyrical album?
I think I have some bias because I also just like the album a lot, but I think Evermore to me is one that has songs I've gone back to a lot to lyrically reflect on. Not to say, like, I don't think people are saying this is a bad album. I definitely don't say that. But what I guess the point I'm trying to make, well, I wasn't trying to make it, the point I'm getting to is I think there are some works of art that are built to end up being timeless. And there are some works of art that tend to be a snapshot of time in a moment, and both are really interesting and really valuable. And we've talked a lot about how Shakespeare is a really compelling writer because he did a little bit of both and ended up being timeless, but there's a lot of stuff he does that is a snapshot of that moment. And I think some of her albums, like if we go to her more lyrical, like the folklore, Evermore era, some of those evoke a sense of timelessness because they are reminiscent of poetry we already consider to be timeless. And this album, people are like, well, it's not like that, so it's not timeless. And it may not be timeless because of the slang. However, I do think 10, 20, 30 years from now, coming back to the life of a showgirl, we're going to be like, that was 2025. That is such a good snapshot of the mid 2020s. And that's also valuable. There's nothing wrong with that, but that is considered low culture, again, quotes, and I can just say in the world of academia, I had professors who studied more popular literature, and they had to really push back because people would be like, well, you're not studying the good stuff. And they're like, well, who's deciding
Right.
that?
Where does that
I'm
come
s-
from? Does something have to be
exactly,
100 years old for it to be good?
exactly.
Right.
And I think that's where some of the criticism comes from. Is this the same as, are there are layers to this album. It is worth studying. I'm excited to do deep dives, but it doesn't have the same sense of poetry that some of her other albums do that align with poetry that we think of as being the right kind of
Well, it's not
poetry.
as much of an esoteric
Exactly.
album.
I think that's a very good point because I think also like a lot of the people who were like most unhappy with the album were the people who really loved Folklore and
Mhm.
Evermore. Like I think that we categorize ourselves as like different era girlies or whatever, and that's totally valid. But I feel like a lot of my friends who got into Taylor Swift with Folklore and
Right. They're the
Evermore,
ones who are
they
like,
were the
"What is
ones who were
this?"
like very hard, like skeptics initially because we're just like, what is this?
Which makes no sense to me because I present to you Red. Like, Red
Right.
essentially does something very similar to this
Yes,
album,
Yes.
absolutely.
which is plays with pop music. We are never ever getting back together and treacherous and
Yeah.
all too well on the same album.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
I'm preaching to the choir. I get that.
yeah, well, I disagreed with that, and the reason that I asked that question of just, like, what do you think is the
Mhm.
album is because I think different people also, like, have that tie of lyrics and music in different ways, and I agree with your point about it's not what we may consider poetry, but, like, I was just writing the Substack to Now That We Don't Talk, and, like, I have been vocal about how I love 1989 and have always I loved Midnights. I even really liked Lover, and like Now That We Don't Talk to me is such a poetic song because it's short lines quickly. We talked about this in our deep dive. Actually, the words do a lot of work. And paired with the music, it communicates real punches. I feel like this album is like that on steroids.
Yeah. Does a
So
lot of work.
in some ways, like it's too soon. We haven't gone through the songs to be able to take them apart. I think that, like, so much of what I've heard about people who were also criticizing was, like, it was in, like, day 1 to 2. Like, now that we're about a month out, I have yet to find anybody who is like, okay, I, like, changed my like, people have come around to songs that initially they were hating on, like, at least my friends, a lot of my friends who were hating in the first 3 days, I was like, "Guys, just it's new music, it's pop music, you gotta marinate. Let marinate in it, get familiar with it, you can't compare it to things that we've been listening to for years, this is a new relationship." And people have come around, like, people love it, and I re-listened to Midnights recently, and I was like,
Well, that is just a taste of our after school episode on the life of a showgirl 1 month later. If you enjoyed this sneak peek and you want to hear the rest of the episode, plus get additional special episodes of AP Taylor Swift, you can join our after school paid subscribers at aptaylorswift.substack.com/subscribe, or you can click the link in the show notes of this episode. Otherwise, we will see you on Wednesdays when we drop our regular content. That's all we have for you today on AP Taylor Swift. Be sure to rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on your social channel of choice at AP Taylor Swift to stay up to date. And join us next time as we overanalyze and deep dive into the next Taylor Swift song on AP Taylor Swift.